we are now down to my top 10 albums of 2024. Let's go. Jack White's No Name album might be my favorite of his since the White Stripes days, and that's no knock on Blunderbuss or anything that followed. My brother listened to this one before I did, and I was surprised by how much he said he enjoyed it. I then gave it a listen, and yeah, this is some pull no punches rock and roll. Sick riffs, some great lyrical phrasing. This thing is full of rock bangers. I'm putting Jack White's No Name at number 10. Kendrick Lamar dropped the Shake Up the Rap World surprise album GNX in the wake of his epic battle with Drake, where he emerged victorious. This album was great in that it shifted the focus off the battle and back onto how amazing a visionary artist Kendrick can be. This was also his most West Coast sounding album since Good Kid, Mad City. I expect this to be at least nominated for Album of the Year in next year's Grammys. I've got Kendrick's GNX at 9. At 8, we've got Laura Marling's Patterns in Repeat. Laura Marling's developing an excellent singer-songwriter discography, and her latest is as touching and emotionally engaging as any of them, and she's got plenty of them. Just check out her album opener, Child of Mine. Maybe it's a function of timing, being that I'm a first-time father with a 3-month-old son, but man, I'm putting Laura Marling's latest at number 8. Waxahachie's Tiger's Blood was probably the biggest breakthrough for my favorite indie rocker turned alt country Americana artist who delivered her 6th album and her second in this countryer style. Katie Crutchfield's scratchy, sometimes emotionally anguished vocals shine. The songwriting is good, and this features perhaps her biggest single to date, Right Back to It, featuring MJ Lenderman. I've got Waxahachie's Tiger's Blood at number 7. At 6, Chromacopia by Tyler the Creator. Tyler's been on a reputation redefining run ever since 2017's Flower Boy, and is now a 2-time Best Rap Album Grammy winner. Chromacopia is unlike even his prior 2 albums, and this had a great Monday release date strategy and marketing campaign that drew even further interest. Track by track, this album is versatile with great lyrics, concepts, production, and of course, Tyler's unapologetic honesty. I think this is my favorite album of his, and I've got it at number 6. At number 5, it's Beyonce with Cowboy Carter. This is a very long digest, so I wouldn't recommend judging it after just 1 or 2 listens. The genres vary throughout the album, and performance-wise, Beyonce continues to show why she's one of the very best in the business. Though her cover of the Beatles' Blackbird was the biggest highlight for me, there are several high points on this dynamic country-adjacent pop album. I'm putting Beyonce's epic Cowboy Carter at number 5. Number 4, Magdalena Bay's 2nd album, Imaginal Disc. This took me a couple listens to really get it, but this album might have the coolest production out of any major album I've heard this year. This was part dreamy, part psychedelic, a little disorienting, but it's still very easy to listen to. Interesting concepts and lyrics, although it's really the production and the melodies that set this apart from the other dreamy indie pop releases this year. Very strong showing for Magdalena Bay. I'd urge you to give it a listen. And if you don't love how it starts, give it until track 5's Death and Romance. I've got this album at number 4. At number 3, Christopher Owens with I Wanna Run Barefoot Through Your Hair. This was an excellent comeback album after his 9-year solo hiatus. One of my favorite artists of the past 15 years, whether we're talking about his music from his former band Girls, rest in peace to Chet J.R. White, or his solo stuff. Owens has had his share of personal turmoil, and his honesty and empathy shine bright all over this emotionally crushing album. This has some great catchy surf rock moments, a lot of emotionally gripping songwriting, but the album's final 2 songs might be what ultimately did it for me, especially the album closer, Do You Need a Friend, which is probably the saddest song of 2024. It could just be emotionally overwhelming. This album is my number 3. Number 2, Vampire Weekend's Only God Was Above Us. Vampire Weekend is always melodically rich, but this might be the closest thing to them achieving that original sound that made their self-titled debut such a sonic standout. They still wear their classical, their Sting and the Police, and their Paul Simon-like influences on their sleeves while maintaining a unique signature style. This album is short and sweet, and they hit those breathtaking cacophonies of earworm melodies several times throughout this album, while featuring some of their sharpest songwriting. I just love that classical keyboard or harpsichord sound in so many of their songs. It feels like an instrumental cheat code. This is probably a top 3, maybe even top 2 Vampire Weekend album for me. I've got it at number 2 this year. Yeah, I'm having a tough time finding a better album, but there is a number one, and my number one album for 2024 is Hooray for the Riff Raff with The Past Is Still Alive. I've been listening to this artist for her past couple releases, and I'm telling you, Alinda Segarra, also known as Hooray for the Riff Raff, is one of the best singer-songwriters in this indie folk space. I've come back and listened to this thing like 4 times now. Song after song after song is so melodic, so profound, and I'm just super impressed every time I jump back in. You know, I might regret putting this so high on the list as time goes by. But as I went through these albums again, I couldn't think of a more rewarding listen from beginning to end. I think that this artist is very underrated, and her narratives paint such vivid pictures. I feel like I'm outdoors visualizing what she's referencing. I'm loving this album, and although it was hard to order the top 3, I came away with Hooray for the Riff Raffs, The Past Is Still Alive at number 1. So there you have it. Those are my top 30, or at least my favorite 30 albums of 2024. I'm gonna issue a top 50 list where I just kind of speed read through it, but this is the top 30 with some context. But yeah, let me know what some of your favorite albums are in the comments. Like the video, subscribe to the channel if you love music like I do. I'm Woog. Have a happy holiday.